Welcome to Raging Moderates. I'm Jessica Tarlov, and my guest today is Congressman Tom Suozzi. How are you?
Hey, great. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to see you again. You're one of my favorite sane Democrats to name check. And when they say like, "Oh, you guys are nuts," I'm like, "What about Tom Suozzi?"
Well, do they know?
Little do they know. Well, they think they know. I want to get through a few stories with you, but thought that we could start out with Reuters is just reporting that Speaker Mike Johnson has said that he has discussed the limits of the U.S. Constitution with President Donald Trump and told him that there was not enough time to amend the founding document to allow the Republican a third White House term. What say you about the current state of this Trump train that desperately wants a third term?
I don't even want to give it any attention. I mean, my focus is right now, we got to get the government open. We got to deal with the healthcare, and we got to win in 2026. I mean,
Is that how you win a swing district? Just like that?
Yeah, let's
say, I don't want to do it.
Let's focus on what matters right now. This is,
Okay.
I always say that Trump is a master of distraction, like a pickpocket. And what pickpockets do is one person comes in and bumps into you. And when you're getting bumped into, you're like, oh, looking at the person bumping into you, and the other person picks your pocket. So whenever something that matters is going on, the president does a great job of distracting us from that topic so we don't talk about what's really going on.
All right. Well, what's really going on is the government shutdown. We're coming up on a month.
Wait. I don't want to talk about that. I only kidding.
Oh, I was like, what have you got? We're going to talk about other stuff too. But I do want to get your take on where we are in the shutdown negotiations or non-negotiations. It seems like the Senate is getting even more dug in, and I don't know if they're going to end up nuking the filibuster or what's happening. But what's your view?
My view is that this is really bad. That I'm co-chair of the Problem Solvers Caucus, almost 50 members of Congress, pretty evenly divided between Democrats and Republicans, and our mission is to try and work things through and work it out. And we're hardly talking to each other, so this toxic environment is just so not conducive to getting something done. And it's very, very tough time for everybody because we're having real impacts on real people's lives. Certainly the people who work for the government that aren't getting paid are freaking out. People are about to not get their food stamps. Is going to be a major problem for people. People trying to get help from the government for some particular issue. It's like, an issue here, an issue there. They all compile to real desperation for a lot of people. And it's just dysfunctional. And listen, I'm doing meetings today to try and get people to say, hey, can't we try this? Can't we try that? I'm not going to give all the details of it, but let's reopen the government and let's get a real commitment that we're going to actually address the premium tax credits. I mean, that we can actually count on, because the bottom line, most people want to open the government, and most people in Congress, they most want to open the government and most want to do something about the premium tax credits. The problem is nobody trusts each other, and we just can't get to first base on the trust level. So I'm constantly working on trying to figure out how we can get some trust for each other.
Yeah, that would be nice. I don't know if the impact of the nation's largest union putting pressure on Democrats to make a deal is going to have an impact. But if you had to bet, how much longer do you think the shutdown lasts?
I think that, the next week is going to be very important because November 1st is such an important date regarding the notices regarding people's increase in their premiums for their health insurance. So that's going to put a lot of pressure on the Republicans. I think the lack of SNAP money, food stamps and unpaid government employees is going to have a big impact on Democrats. I think that, come on, everybody's so sick of this. I'm so sick of it. I mean, can't we just work together and make a deal and get this thing done? I mean, it seems so obvious to me. It's just a matter of getting that little level of trust.
Yeah. Well, not much trust going on in Washington. And I wanted to turn our attention to what's happening on the immigration front in our country. Bill Melugin from Fox is reporting that there's a major shakeup coming at ICE. You have warring factions from within. So apparently borders are Tom Homan and ICE Director Todd Lyons actually prefer to go after the worst of the worst, whereas Corey Lewandowski and Secretary Noem and Stephen Miller, of course, are more interested in just picking up everyone who's in the country undocumented. What do you make of the current state, I guess, of immigration enforcement? And could you also talk a bit about your op-ed in the Times that focused on where you think there actually could be some common sense compromise? Your problem solvers take on the immigration crisis?
Yeah, this debate that's going on that you just mentioned within the Republican administration is kind of, my op-ed's right on point. We've spent so much time, everybody fighting each other instead of focusing on our common enemy, which are the cartels that are making billions of dollars by exploiting our system, overwhelming our border, and doing that to distract everybody. It's much like I was talking about earlier, distracting the Border Patrol, Homeland Security, efforts so that they can make their real money, not only just by getting money from the people they're bringing to the border, but also from the sex trafficking and from the drugs that they're bringing into the United States of America. So, I never thought I'd say that I'm leaning towards Tom Homan's side of the argument, but I mean, I said in my op-ed, I agree with President Trump that we need to secure the border. I agree with President Trump that we need to go after and get rid of the violent criminals in our country. I agree with President Trump that we need a whole of government approach to go after the cartels, but they are squandering any success that they've had on this issue by going after, having masked men pull people out of their landscaping vehicles, or having people rappel from a helicopter and, going after people in a building in Chicago where half the people are legal and documented, and you're terrifying children and you're separating families and you're just wrecking businesses. And it's such a wrong, and plus it's just inhuman. The fact that you're terrifying all these people and you are scaring all these families and taking mommies away from their children and daddies away from their families. I mean, it's just wrong. So let's build a coalition of business that needs employees, badges. Local law enforcement doesn't want to do this stuff because they want to focus on crime in their communities, not building distrust with their communities. And the Bible, business badges in the Bible, just treat people like human beings. And stop this separating of families and doing things that are contradictory to our American history.
It's a different kind of BBB, right, than we're used to. Are there any Republicans that you feel like in this climate, not under a normal presidency, but in this climate, are going to be open to working with you?
There are so many Republicans that want to do something like this. Everybody's just looking for some signal from the president. And, I choose to focus on the things the president has said that are helpful in this regard. The president has said on many occasions, he said, we got to do something about the agriculture and hospitality. You have a lot of good people that are working very hard. They may not have the proper documentation, and we have to use a lot of common sense. Now, he has said something like that over and over and over again. So I'm saying, listen, we agree, we got to secure the border. Let's fix the broken asylum system that's been abused by the cartels for so long to make money and to overwhelm our system. Let's fix the broken asylum system. And number three, if you've been here in the country for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years and you haven't committed any crime, the only thing you did wrong is you don't have the proper documentation, let's give you a way to become legalized in America. My gift to the Republicans is we don't have to make them citizens. Let's just legalize people so they can work here and they can pay taxes and they can stop looking over their shoulder. There are millions and millions, literally 10 million people we could legalize in our country, not citizenship. Maybe, DACA recipients, I'd like to give them citizenship. I'd like to define that as broadly as possible. But all these other folks, let's legalize them. It'd be good for business. It'll be good for law enforcement. And it would be good for our souls and for the future of America.
I quickly wanted to get your take on the big memo, the deciding to win memo that came out yesterday, going around Democratic circles, surveyed 500,000 people, which is quite a large sample size. A lot of it, I feel like we knew that Dems have to focus on things like jobs and the economy. But in particular, they said being moderate does not mean running on a defense of the political establishment, elites, corporate interests, or the status quo. It also does not mean having a mild-mannered temperament or taking the centrist position on every issue. As a moderate yourself, do you feel like that sums up the kind of ethos or vibe that successful candidates should have?
That's a great document. I read it, and it's really good. And, I put this very simply. I said, if you poll the American people, you say, what are the issues you care about the most? They say affordability is number one, immigration is number two, taxes is number three, crime is number four, and healthcare is number five. Those are the five issues American people care about. If you poll those same people and you say, what do you think the Democrats are pushing? They say abortion rights, LGBT protection, healthcare. So that's one thing that crosses over, saving democracy, and climate change. Well, that's why we're losing. If you want to win, I have a good record on all these five issues, okay? I'm not saying they're not important. They are important. But if you want to win elections, talk about what these five issues that the people care about. That's why the debate right now about the shutdown, which is about affordability, number one issue people care about, of healthcare, an issue people care about, that Democrats happen to have some credibility on, is a good fight for us to have. But if we want to win elections, we have got to stand up strong to say, this is the stuff we need to talk about. How is it that if you're willing to work hard in America, go to work 40 hours a week and go to 50 weeks a year and get 2 weeks vacation, you got to make enough money so that you can afford to buy a house, educate your kids, pay for health insurance, and retire without being scared. That's the basic message of America. And Democrats need to get back to pushing that message, because right now, if you make $10 an hour or $15 an hour and you work 40 hours a week and you work 50 weeks a year and you get 2 weeks vacation, you're only making $20,000 or $30,000 a year. And you're not going to buy a house, educate your kids, pay for health insurance, and retire without being scared on $20,000 or $30,000 or $40,000. It's not going to happen. So we got to get back to the basics of talking about rewarding hard work in America.
Love it. Congressman Tom Suozzi, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.